looking over the whole trailer, what were the big wow moments for me, where even as a fan, just a fan of the books, hoping, are they going to get this right or not? And there were two big wow moments for me. Surprisingly, not the sandworm at the end. I know what a sandworm is. I appreciate the sandworm, but we didn't actually see that much of it. We only saw it head on, so it was a bit of a tease. That there were two big wow moments for me, and watching Quinn Howard's live reaction, those were also the points where he was cheering and he just broke into cheers and had to stop for a moment because it was so amazing. He thought the sandworm looked nice, but it wasn't the same reaction from him. The first of these wow moments was the shield scene. It's just a training scene, and they're showing off this is what personal force shield technology looks like in the Dune universe and how they're going to achieve it with special effects. It looked like how it's described in the books to an extent that has never been done before. There weren't CGI special effects of merit in 1984. This looked awful in Lynch's Dune. I'm not going to show it. The miniseries by 2000, they didn't have the budget to show it well, so there were like one or two scenes, like they had the training scene and they very briefly showed, hey, there's energy shields, and then didn't show it anymore the rest of the miniseries. And I respect it that they didn't have the budget to achieve this, but not just the training scene, mind you, but throughout the rest of the trailer, although in less clear detail, we'd see people running around in battle scenes, entire squads of soldiers using personal shields. This is going to be a very common effect. It's as common as like seeing lasers in a Star Wars movie. That they have lasers in the Dune universe, they don't use them in combat because if they hit a shield, it makes an explosion that would kill you and the target, so they don't shoot lasers like in Star Wars. They have personal shields. That's why they use swords again, because it stops anything that's faster than a sword, like projectiles. But that first time they show it a bit more in the rest of the trailer to establish we are going to be showing this on a large scale, on the scale of armies. You'll see 20 men with personal shields. But that first point, when they don't tease a little, they show it very prominently in a long clip. Paul sparring with Gurney Halleck in the training room, and they both have shields on. And this is what it's supposed to look like. The fact that it isn't some grand swirling energies, but the fact that it's subtle. That it's just this slight blur effect where it looks like when you shake an object so fast back and forth in your hand that it looks blurry. They just looks like this slight blur underneath. So the shields, it was hard to do something that subtle well. So I'm not geeking out, and Quinn wasn't. I'm not geeking out. We aren't geeking out that, oh, hey, it's the shield scene. Like, I've already seen 2 adaptations attempting to do that. I'm geeking out that the shields look perfect. For comparison, when I'm talking about that I saw something and it looked perfect, it looked like the version in my head. The last time I really had this reaction to anything was when I saw Fellowship of the Ring for the first time in theaters. And you're just seeing the Shire or just the worn robes Gandalf was wearing. Just the physical reality, because so much of it was practical props and not CGI, that this is what Middle-earth looked like in my head. That how are you in my head? Because Tolkien has very good visual descriptions of this is what Rohan looks like. You got the armor right. Well, it helps that a lot of the main concept designers on the movie had been book illustrators for years, like Ted Nasmith. Even so, it was little things like the way tables look in Bag End. I was like, how did they know what was in my head? Just in terms of the way the timber looks in the floor. And that's hard to explain compared to other adaptations. I'm like an X-Men adaptation, where this is a good adaptation, but everyone has, because the comics have been going on for so long, everyone has a different version in their head of what the Xavier Mansion should look like, or what their costuming should look like, because some of it's realistic, some of it's not. But in terms of a literary adaptation, maybe Harry Potter fans had the same reaction, because it looks like a school. But damn it, everything in this looked really crisp, and so little of it is CGI. Just a study in Castle Caladan where they're doing the pain box test. Or in a separate room, hey, here's what shields look like, book accurate, that they're not cheesy, they're this subtle effect. It was just, this is what I pictured in my head. And I don't need to worry about it being a good story because they're worried about it being faithful to a book that's already written. It's, do you get it right visually? Or like I was talking about the Bene Gesserit in terms of body language, of how are they playing it? Are they getting it tonally right? That's what I'm concerned about. But the first big, oh my god, I'm cheering scene was the shields. You know, I was excited first, oh, it's the pain box, just the shields, and they don't just tease it, but they show it in full. And, you know, I was happy. Quinn Howard, I'm showing you here the footage, he's ecstatic. This is footage. This isn't a still shot. That at a certain point, he was so happy. This is in this video you see here, that he sort of froze up in this moment of utter mental ecstasy that transcended time and space as he was in his element and was one with the source material, and I envy him for that. If we could all experience that level of joy. That was the first, oh, wow moment for me in this trailer, was seeing the shields, the effect looking right. I look forward to seeing behind-the-scenes videos by the special effects team focusing on how did you achieve that effect. A lot of thought must have gone into it. The second wow moment for me, which was generally the same one Quinn had, was the Suspensors. Now, this is described throughout the books, and no adaptation has had the budget to accurately portray it, that one of the secondary effects you can use a force shield for is hover tech. They have hover technology based on personal shields. And this is pervasive in their society on a level they couldn't do on like a miniseries budget, that as common as a table lamp, they have things called glow globes, which are, it's a circular light globe that you turn it on and it just hovers. Imagine you just had this hovering light source above your desk because it's using a suspensor technology. And in combat, it's a way to deploy troops really quickly, that instead of having to land a ship, have everyone jump out, possibly hurt themselves, you just fly a ship 50 feet, 30 feet above the ground, have everyone hop out the back, and it describes them like floating down like they're holding a balloon, just gently, or like they're on the moon with lower gravity. And again, it's one of those hard things to get right because it's subtle. It isn't even that big of a part of the books in terms of like shields are a major concept affecting how warfare works. It's just, oh, it's one little piece of technology we have. It's just world building. You could tell the story without this. The miniseries didn't have the budget to show it, so they didn't. But just, we have mild hover tech enough that you can jump out the back of a transport 30 feet above the ground and just float down to deploy a squad of guys. And just think on it, the ripple effects of how that would affect the mechanics of warfare. Now, the idea is that Baron Harkonnen is so morbidly obese, the bad guy, that he wears a suspensor belt all the time just to move around. David Lynch, of course, went nuts with this and had him zipping around all the time for no reason. The miniseries was more restrained with that, with the Baron Harkonnen. They show, well, he is hovering and gliding, but the Baron was one of the things the miniseries did very well. Casting Ian McNeice, he did a great job. Casting is not just this evil brute, but they portrayed him as cunning at the same time as a little deranged. But that was one of the highlights of the miniseries, was how they portrayed the Baron. But they just did not have the budget to show suspensor tech on this scale. And I don't blame them for that, but this shot of Imperial shock troops being deployed, and you can see half a dozen of them hovering down, because they're using suspensors to be deployed and just gently glide down to the ground. And that world-building element of it, and just showing in the trailer in 1 2-second shot, yes, we are going to be showing suspensor tech being used in a large scale. And the little background things that you thought there's no way an adaptation could do a budget like this. I know it sounds stupid, but think of like the chase scene in Attack of the Clones on Coruscant. That how could they in the 70s have thought of doing, well, you see in Star Wars they have hover technology, so there's going to be this chase scene on a highway filled with nothing but hover cars. The technology to display that did not exist 30 years ago. But then by Attack of the Clones, you forget, yeah, they're able to convey this pretty well. So seeing Suspensor tech like that, that's another one of the points where I just smiled. That this is a gift, and they got it right. Those were the two big ones.